Hi guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video we're taking a look at this dead iPhone 4 I picked up off of eBay for $12. Now I was going to use the frame for a couple of iPhone 4 logic boards I still have laying around from that iPhone logic board parts and all that kind of stuff that I got a while back. So I brought this dead iPhone 4 to put that logic board in. Now obviously before I put the logic board in there I want to see what's wrong with this phone itself. So see if I can get it working, things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up and see if I can get it working. So at the moment, completely dead, not turning on or anything like that. So the first thing I'm going to want to go ahead and do here is remove the bottom screws from the iPhone itself so I can access the insides, and hopefully it's not water damaged. Otherwise there may be a bad chance of getting this to work, but that's no problem because I've got some logic boards that need to go in here. Opening it up here, you can see some of that's already been in this phone as the battery is taped down, so it must have been rattling around or it's been replaced at some point by someone, and instead of getting adhesive they just chucked some tape on there. Now the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is get a dock connector because maybe the charging port is broken. So to do that I'm going to have to remove the battery and go ahead and put a new dock connector in there as well. Now, if you do have an iPhone 4 laying around and you can take the battery out of that and put it in here, that's probably going to save you some time when it comes to charging it up. And then after you see that the phone either works or doesn't work, maybe then you can charge up the other battery and see if that one works. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the battery first here and then pry it out. Now the older iPhones below the iPhone 5 are so easy to remove the battery compared to the much newer ones where you've got to pull those tabs from the bottom, and if you break them then you've got a lot of prying ahead to get that battery out. I tell you, the battery will never fall out of a newer iPhone such as an iPhone 5S. Now if I go ahead and remove this dock connector, we can go ahead and connect up one from an iPhone 4S, but the 4 and 4S dock connectors have the same connectors and will work just fine for testing. So go ahead and plug that in and go ahead and plug it into a iPad charger. This will allow the phone to show the Apple logo. You can see there it powered up with no problem, so maybe we've got a faulty dock connector. Now it's boot looping because there's no battery installed, so we're going to go ahead and put that battery into the iPhone itself and plug it in and see if it will charge up and eventually power on the phone. Now I wasn't going to wait for this battery to charge up. It did come up with the battery flat symbol. So I've gone ahead and grabbed this iPhone 4. This is running iOS 6.1.3 and it's been featured in a couple of my videos. Now you can see here it has a functional battery and it is almost fully charged, I think. So we can go ahead and connect that up into this iPhone 4. Go ahead and press and hold the power button, and what do you know? It powers on. So I don't know if the dock connector's faulty or what. We'll take a look at that later on, but for now we're just going to go ahead and let this phone boot up, see if there's a passcode on it or if there's no passcode on it or whatever. So booting this phone up, you can see that it does load the status bar before the Apple logo disappears, which means it's on the hello screen. So we go ahead and look up the IMEI number here, and you can see that it is unlocked it's got no SIM lock on it, but it doesn't actually say if it's unlocked from iCloud for some reason. So we're going to go ahead and set this up and see if it is iCloud unlocked. Now I brought this as an iCloud unlocked iPhone, so hopefully it is, and it requires a SIM, so we're going to wait here for it to activate, and this is where it'll tell you if it's iCloud locked. Now you can see it's not iCloud locked, so it lets me set up the iPhone without entering an Apple ID here. We can go ahead and skip signing into my Apple ID and set up the iPhone as a new iPhone, agree to the terms and conditions, and obviously I don't want to add a passcode just yet as there's nothing on this iPhone. And after we finish setting up, you can click get started, and you can see we're at the home screen of the iPhone, and going into settings here, which was accidental, going into general and about, you can see that it's running iOS 7.1.2 and it is a 16GB iPhone 4. Now you can see the original dock connector that I just disconnected, I reconnected again and it's charging no problem. So I'm not sure exactly why it was dead, because it's really not dead at all, and it is charging from the battery that was in it. So the battery and the dock connector are fine, so I'm not sure why it's dead, but you can see it is a 4 running iOS 7, so there's plenty of lag and glitching everywhere, which is a shame. But what we're going to go ahead and do now is replace the LCD screen. So you can see here with these screws that they are pretty rusted, so this phone has come in contact with water at some point in its life. And this makes it very difficult to remove the screws, but I've got a little bit of a technique which I'll show you guys a little bit later in this video. So the first couple of screws came out no problem, so I went ahead and continued disassembling the phone by removing the Wi-Fi antenna and all that kind of stuff. There's plenty of videos on my channel how to pull apart an iPhone 4, but this is just a bit of an overview video on what's involved. But you can see that it takes some time, but it's relatively easy to do. Okay, so once you've removed all the screws to the iPhone logic board, you can go ahead and remove the SIM card tray and obviously all the connectors up near the top and the screen, and you'll be able to lift out the iPhone logic board from the phone, and you'll just be left with the frame and the LCD now. We have to remove a couple more things so I can access all of the screws, and this is where the problem came in. I couldn't get a few of the screws out, so believe it or not, I got some needle nose pliers and gripped around the screws and just loosened them a little bit, which loosened up the rust that was keeping them locked in place, and I was able to remove them from the iPhone itself so I could actually get a new screen onto this. Now I don't have a brand new LCD to put on this, but I do have a slightly cracked one, but it's a lot less cracked than the one that's currently on here, and that was from a bunch of iPhone parts, same parts as the logic boards that I want to put into some iPhone frames. So I'm still going to be having to look out for some dead or iCloud locked iPhone 4s to put those logic boards in. One of them has a Wi-Fi issue, won't find Wi-Fi, and the other one has no call sound. So they're not like perfectly working phones, but they work just fine. So we'll go ahead and remove the original screen here that's currently on here, and we go ahead and put our new LCD on. So just got a small pry tool, put it in between the frame and the LCD, and you'll be able to lift it out. There's some cables there, so be careful of those cables, of course. And the home button will stay behind, so keep that in mind as well. And here is the original cracked LCD. So go ahead and get my replacement one, which, like I said, isn't brand new and is slightly cracked, but will work just fine for what I'm going to be using this phone for. It's just going to be sort of sitting around. I might eventually get a new screen, but I will be eventually getting a new back glass, as this one is quite smashed and will need replacing. Alright, so once the screen is fitted, we can go ahead and reinstall all the parts in the phone. Now make sure it's seated around nice and even. It's touching the metal mid-frame of the iPhone 4. Now because the little camera bracket is actually unclipped and is slightly lifted up, it pushes on the screen ever so slightly, so the crack comes up probably about 1 millimeter. So you can feel it with your finger, but it's nothing too bad, and it will do because I don't really have a new screen to put on this phone. So we go ahead and reinstall all the screws in the iPhone logic board back into the phone and see if it still works, and yeah. Alright, so we can go ahead and install the Wi-Fi antenna and dock connector, put the bracket on there, and then we go ahead and put in the battery and seal up the phone and see if this phone is still fully functional, and then we'll go ahead and test it out a little bit. So go ahead and you can see here that it's powering on just fine, and I'll go ahead and put those bottom screws in. Now you can see here that it's fully functional. Both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and cellular work just fine. Has working call sound, which is my only iPhone to have working Wi-Fi and call sound on the same phone. So for 12 bucks, I got myself a fully functional iPhone 4, iCloud unlocked and everything. So you can see here, quite nice. It is a shame it's running iOS 7 because iOS 7 is quite slow. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And now if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Check out the iPhone playlist for more videos just like this one. And I'll catch you guys next time. Another one of my great videos.